Hey, what's up guys? I'm Leo Chen of Levitate Style. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I grew my stock portfolio from $0 to $100,000 in 2020. Before we get into this video, please follow me on Instagram at Levitate Style. I post daily men's fashion and travel content there, so follow along. Also, hit the subscribe button. We got new videos on this channel every week. Before we get into the details of this video, as a disclaimer, I am not a financial professional. This is just for entertainment purposes only. As I can't believe I'm even making a video on this topic. A year ago, if you told me I'll be making this video, I wouldn't believe you at all. Basically, I had no idea how to invest in stocks, and I started with zero, and I grew my stock portfolio to over $100,000 in less than a year, all in 2020. In this first video on the topic of investing in stocks and growing my wealth, I'm obviously going to start off talking about my journey going from $0 to $100,000. Quick little backstory, I used to work in finance. I used to work at Morgan Stanley and Barclays, so I technically have a finance background, but I worked more in the investigations, compliance side of the business. I just never learned about stocks, investing, and also as an immigrant, my parents did not teach me about investing at all. I think they might have gotten burned once back in Hong Kong, and for me growing up, it's always been about investing in real estate, investing in houses. So that's why, a quick background as to why I never bought stocks. I never understood how it was. I just thought it was really hard, really expensive, really complicated, like gambling. So I'm going to share with you guys how I kind of went step by step from $0 to $100,000 by the end of 2020. I'm just gonna pull up my Robinhood app right now. As of right now, filming right now, I'm over $100,000 in my main stock portfolio. I'm at $103,622, and that is for me at a 44.48% gain. So my main stock portfolio that I'm going to be talking about in this video is on my Robinhood app. And so a year ago, I didn't even know what that was, but thanks to my friends, they introduced me to this app because I just really wanted an easy way to understand this, how to kind of get into it. So they introduced me to this app, and it is very easy. Robinhood app, definitely go check it out. Step number one in investing, I started with $1,000 in the Robinhood app. So I started off really small, very low risk because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And this was before the pandemic. I put in my first $1,000 back in February of 2020. This was literally a few weeks right before the big market crash. First $1,000, I wanted to invest in companies that I knew. I think that's like kind of the most basic way of investing. Obviously, investing in companies that I knew, in products that I use every day. So some of the first stocks that I bought was, of course, Nike, because I wear sneakers a lot and I love the brand. So I just thought Nike, nowhere but up. I bought stocks in Apple, Disney, because those were the companies that I knew. Apple, I use all the Apple products. I have the iPhone, MacBook, and I love it. Like an essential company, it's like a fundamental, they're really strong. They're a company that I buy a lot of the products from. So in a way, it's like I'm their customer, and if I buy their stock, I kind of, become part of the company and I get something back. So that's kind of how I just understood stock. So I really just started off with brands that I knew. And of course, like Disney, because we just came back from like Disneyland, and I figured Disney had Disney Plus. So, and also like Disney owned Marvel, which I love their movies. So that's kind of like the most basic way that kind of started off with my investing journey. Step number two, I also tried out different investing apps. So other investing apps such as Fundrise and Acorns. So at the same time of having Robinhood app, I also learned about other apps that I could be investing my money. Like I said, I was very, very low risk. I didn't know what I was doing. So other apps that I also started with was Fundrise and also Acorns. So right off the bat, I kind of started with 3 different apps, and of course, very easy to start. I think each one I only started with like $500. Acorns is kind of cool. It was kind of just like rounding off your purchases. So if your purchase was, I don't know, $5.53, it could round up to $6, and that extra change, it will go deposit into Acorns. So that was like a really small amount, and it was like a good and easy way for me to get into investing without, breaking the bank. And Acorns is pretty easy. It's a nice little app that you can kind of just invest in different kind of portfolio depending on your risk. And I'm going to break down these apps separately into different videos and kind of also go through my performance throughout the year in those apps. And then another one was Fundrise, and Fundrise was all about like investing into property. So like I said earlier, I'm not buying houses. My parents only knew about buying real estate. So Fundrise was like, okay, that's kind of cool. I'm like buying a house, investing in a house. So that's another app I also started. But my main portfolio was Robinhood. Step number 3, I started investing in dividend stocks. Dividend stocks, if you guys didn't know, you kind of get a little payback from the company each quarter or monthly, depending on the company, depending on the stock. So that was kind of something like very rewarding. I mean, like you invest in a company and they get to give you some cash back. I was like, hell yeah, like that's awesome. Then I started researching dividend stocks. So I bought stocks in AT&T, ExxonMobil. Those are some of the most well-known stocks out there that pays a good dividend. To me, these dividend stocks is really safe play. These companies are very consistent, and at the same time, they pay you something back each quarter. Then as a few months went by, I noticed like the growth wasn't really that big. Like the stocks wasn't really growing that much. But then for me, as the months went on, I realized that I'd rather invest my money in high growth stock. I'd rather invest in companies that's gonna be coming out of the pandemic stronger than ever. And that kind of growth is gonna be much higher than the little bit of dividends I'm getting companies every quarter. Also realize that in order to like live off of dividends, you have to invest a lot of money in these companies. So if you kind of just like look into your research on dividends, you probably need like a good amount of money, like $1 million per se, to get enough dividends back to really kind of live off of it, which is just a whole lot of money sitting for a little bit of the reward back. Then step number 4, I realized that I had to take advantage of the situation in 2020 with the pandemic, but at the same time, things were changing in the country with policies, and also just like where do we see the future going. During all of this time, I'm obviously buying just a whole lot of stocks. But for me, like I said, as a beginner, I really just bought kind of like 1 at a time, 5 at a time. I was looking for more and more like growth strategies. So kind of looking at what companies are growing. So the new growth opportunity with Tesla is a perfect example. I bought the stock right before the big stock split. And even then at the time, I thought it was a really big risky investment. It was a lot of money. You know, it was something like $2,000 for 1 share, which then split into a few. But that was a lot of money for me to invest in. But I did notice from month to month, it kept hitting a new all-time high. And so that has been a big part in my growth in the portfolio. Tesla turned out to be one of my highest holding stocks in my portfolio. And I'm going to do another video on my top 10 holdings in this main portfolio, just to show you guys what I have, what my position is, how much money I have in these big stocks. As the months went on, the more success that I saw, the more gains I was getting. I was really happy with what it was. I just felt like I wasn't investing enough. Kind of started going pretty aggressive with it. I kind of went with like $1,000 a week. All in all, to grow my portfolio to $100,000 with around 40% gains, I total invested about $70,000 myself. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to put in that much money. That's all up to you. For me personally, that is what I was comfortable with. I was seeing really good gains week after week, so I was able to put in more and more money because I just felt like I was investing in the right stocks. I'm still a beginner. I don't even know how to do options at all. I'm not even touching that because I am really scared to lose my money that way. So a big part of my 40% gain is from a lot of the companies that I bought early on. And so companies that I thought was great companies, it's just a matter of time that it'll come back up. Also, World Caribbean, I bought them really low. If you guys didn't know, I do men's fashion and travel. I've been on a lot of World Caribbean cruises and I love cruising. So that's actually an industry that I still believe in, and I bought a lot of their stocks early on. I'm not saying this is for you, it's not for everyone, but for me, I bought them early on at a really cheap cost. And that is still an industry that I'm really excited about. Honestly, I cannot wait to be back on a cruise ship when all of this is over. And that was one of my main concerns before investing, was that like, how do I know what companies to invest in? How would I know where to begin? I don't want to be day trading. I don't want to be looking up all the company financials. And really thanks to YouTube, there's a lot of great YouTubers out there. That's their main focus. That's their main bread and butter. They do so many great analysis and breaking down companies and stock prices and things like that. And so I would definitely go do your research, go check them out. More in the last quarter of 2020, September, October, November, especially around the election time, I started investing more and more into renewable energy, just more about a better environment in that brighter, better future, and also into electric vehicle industry. So not just like the electric cars itself, but also like charging stations, battery, solar power. That is kind of like the new growth that I started buying more and more into. I started kind of just cleaning my portfolio up. I just had way too many stocks that it was kind of like a joke. I was basically an ETF myself, like a mutual fund. Like if I was going to buy 100 different stocks with like one each, I should have just bought like the index fund, like buy S&P 500, which is basically investing in all the 500 companies. Realized that like as a beginner, I didn't really have like a focus. I just kind of just bought whatever I thought was good in all kinds of industries. So I started cleaning that up, stocks that wasn't doing that well, those only like 5-10%, and I only had like 1 or 2 shares. Like, do I really think this is gonna be long term? Or I should just sell it short term, use the gains and reinvest it. And so I did that, and I started buying more and more into my long-term stocks, which is the likes of like Tesla, Facebook, Disney, and also I started investing a lot into this company called ARK Invest. So ARK Invest has been one of my favorite stocks to invest in, and that's because they have active ETFs. And that means that they're constantly buying and selling companies. So when you buy one of their stocks, you're actually owning like 10, 20 different companies. For example, there's ARKF, and they invest in fintech. There's ARKG, they invest in genomics, like bioscience kind of stuff. I don't really understand it, but hey, that's what the professionals are doing. They invest in the right companies. They understand the future and how that stuff works. I just want to put my money in somewhere that I can grow it. That way it's less risky for me. I don't have to spend all my money in 5 different companies in a growing industry that could be up and down, and I don't know if I'm willing to take that risk. So by investing in ARK, that's been really helpful for me, and they do an amazing job growing their account. So now in my $100,000 portfolio, I'm really balancing out in 2 different things. One side, I have my long-term stocks, and that is companies that I do not want to touch. I just want to keep investing, and I think that they're gonna grow really big in 5 years. On the other side is my short term, my swing trades. So short term is companies that could be doing really well at the moment. I don't know if they are that amazing for 5 years yet. I don't know, I'm not sure. So companies like that to me are kind of like Beyond Meat. Also companies like Peloton. So they've been doing really well during the pandemic in 2020, but I don't know how I see them in 5 years. So even short term, I think maybe like in a year or less. Those are some of the companies that I will constantly be looking out for, looking for new growth opportunity. And if it's doing well, I'll see how it is in a month, in 3 months. And if it's at a certain percentage, I can decide if I want to sell it, invest in my long term, or keep it and let's see how much further it can go, or if a short-term stock can become a long-term stock. And so that's kind of like my new portfolio strategy. So this is how I grew my stock portfolio from $0 to $100,000 in less than a year in 2020. I consistently invested week by week, but also picking the right companies and knowing when to buy more, knowing when to sell, and really just learning all of that along the way. And a lot of the stocks have grown out to be the average of 30-40%, and that way I'm happy. I keep them going, and figure out the ones that are not doing so well, sell, reinvest in my long-term stock. I'm going to be doing a lot more stock videos throughout the year. This is just the first of many that I have planned in this series. I'm going to be sharing all my investment portfolios. Now I've been growing a lot more. This video is just really about my main portfolio on Robinhood, but since then I've opened a Roth IRA, which I just started that in September. Share, what's going on in my other apps and other portfolios. And I'm also going to be breaking down my top 10 stocks in the main portfolio. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Thank you guys for watching.